And as artificial intelligence and GenAI technologies continue to evolve, they are creating powerful synergies with OpenRAN and AI-enhanced RAN, that's AI-RAN. This convergence is transforming network automation, orchestration, and collaboration among resources like RApps and XApps. That's unlocking new monetization opportunities for carriers, their ecosystems, and clients. This panel with leaders from A5G Networks, Verizon Enterprise Solutions, Rakuten Symphony, Boldyn Networks, and Oracle will explore the critical role of advanced real-time analytics in OpenRAN, the impact of AI on network performance and operational efficiency, and the difference between OpenRAN deployments in private versus public networks. And speakers, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being patient with the long intro.
All good facts.
Kaitki, I want to start with you at A5G Networks. Certainly AI having a lot of influence on OpenRAN and the advancement, acceleration, really adoption of OpenRAN. Talk about some of the top line talking points for that influence.
So, OpenRAN and the entire end-to-end mobile network is significantly influenced by AI and GenAI. So OpenRAN was all about opening up the radio access network interfaces. Now AI-RAN is all about bringing autonomy to radio access network. Like you can do resource optimizations, you can bring spectral efficiency, and operational efficiencies. If you look at radio access network, there are a lot of operations, manual operations like site planning, RF planning, site survey, and in general day-to-day network operations. And all these add significantly to the operational expenses, high operational expenses for radio access network. GenAI and AI have significant potential to simplify these workflows, processes, and bring efficiencies in the network and in general reduce the operational expenses to a large extent. So that's one part. Another one is the customer support or customer training. So GenAI and AI can bring that efficiency as well in the network.
And Bharadwaj, from the enterprise perspective, that influence of AI on OpenRAN and that adoption?
First of all, thanks for an opportunity to talk to here. And I feel it actually, the AI and so I hear AI everywhere in this event. So when I was passing in this conference, so I feel AI is this, it's not just another wave of hype. I feel it is going to really transform because it touched the end user now. So end users are already using, so which means the transformation that is affecting every industry, including telcos, is happening right in front of us. And to me, this open AI or GenAI is actually accelerating this adoption because the technology, the innovation that it brings, it's really speed. It increased the speed of innovation and there are a lot of small companies coming up with the new solutions, and it created this opportunity for many players to enter, which otherwise was very capital intensive industry. So I feel OpenRAN is going to evolve through this AI impact, or the change of AI that brings in. It can speed up how you build the apps, how you actually create autonomous and self-governing networks. It's going to be very more futuristic, I would say.
Yeah. Andrew brings up a good point as far as not only the technology widens the scope, but the scope of the ecosystem certainly widens as well as we have new entrants.
Yeah, no, I think from the perspective of Oracle, we look at this as well from the infrastructural perspective and the opportunities that opens up. Because OpenRAN as a concept, really, one of its main premises was the idea of extending compute right out to the edge of the network. And, really looking at a disaggregated RAN solution more as a workload that runs out there. So I think as we see, technologies like GenAI becoming more pervasive around what we can do with it in multiple areas, it stands to reason that you would want to put that as a workload out into the edge. And I think it's really important to contemplate that, with a cloud infrastructure all the way out there, that's what gives you access to these kind of models so that you can actually apply them to different use cases. But also importantly, it's one of the premises of the whole agility that you get from that kind of solution.
Anshul, certainly AI or X apps and R apps are an influence in the AI OpenRAN space. Maybe give us some insight as to sort of the state of play for that progress.
Sure. So, I think as everyone knows, Rakuten Mobile is a live commercial case study on the future of OpenRAN. Now we just turned profitable as well as of last December. So OpenRAN works. It took some time, but it works, right? And of course, we all talked about how the ecosystem of apps has opened up. I mean, if you compare to the traditional models, the algorithms and the optimizations were, for a certain given RAN vendor, most probably the algorithms and so on and everything was provided or locked in for some particular set of their partners or some specific vendors. But now I think with OpenRAN, with open interfaces, the ecosystem is now open to whoever is creative enough to have an R app or a use case. And it's I like giving that analogy. I think we have discussed this before as well. It's like the movie industry where if you in the past days, if you want to launch a big movie, you need a lot of money and distribution and everything, and only rich people could basically make movies. But now with YouTube and Netflix, anyone who is creative enough can have their movie launched, and if people love it, it will go viral. So I think similarly in OpenRAN, a lot of startups, universities, and everyone is getting an opportunity now to have their play, to have their algorithm get a chance to go and work in the real network. And I think GenAI takes this or accelerates this to a next level, whereby now telecom engineers who are typically domain experts and who are not really very proficient at coding, but now with GenAI, they have an assistant who could code for them. So a lot of ideas that are residing in RF engineers' minds can now see a real life form in terms of an automated R app or an X app because of GenAI. So I think OpenRAN plus GenAI is the combination that is going to accelerate the whole ecosystem development to a next level.
If I can add one point, I want to say as a partner to Rakuten, I think they're a great proof point for the fact that this technology works and it's real and it's at scale, right? Because you're 8.5 million customers now, I think, right?
Around that.
I mean, that's a huge achievement. And, from the industry looking at this as something that was viewed to be, disruptive and innovative, to see a carrier of this size, it's a great foundation for this conversation. So well done.
Yeah, I think Rakuten Mobile, and in fact, we had a session yesterday where we announced everywhere that now we are officially level 3.5 in terms of the levels of autonomy. And I think, if you are, every telco is doing automations, I'm sure, and but if you want to get above level 3 and towards level 4, level 5, I think AI and using AI with the right platform, the openness that OpenRAN kind of a philosophy offers, I think is the way to go to go level 3 beyond.
Andy, with Boldyn Networks, we hear a lot about GenAI allowing for more adaptive networks right now, but could you just walk us through an example of what that is?
Yeah, sure. So at Boldyn Networks, we're a neutral host, so like one of the world's largest neutral hosts. So we come at this OpenRAN and AI from really a practical deployment perspective. So we're not an R&D house in that sense, but we've got a lot of OpenRAN out there. We're big fans of it as well, and it does work. And so we deployed OpenRAN in some of our smart city constructs. On wind farms, and also we have OpenRAN Tech serving enterprise. So we've created our own stack, and now we're starting to layer in the AI piece. Now, in the past, we've chosen our own models, which we've trained up. But now, it's very early days, but I think Gen AI is going to be a sort of massive accelerator. So I think one of the things that we're investigating and that we're quite excited about is the capability to use Gen AI to create digital or AI agents. Mm-hmm. So essentially, you've got this concept of a digital employee that specializes in a particular task, whether that's optimization or data analytics, and it can perform tasks within the whole network management lifecycle. So that's where we see the sort of new Gen AI coming in and embedding into the OpenRAN.
Any comment? Kaitki, I want to go back to you, but if you have a comment, go ahead.
I agree with what you are saying. In my view, I think one of the challenges that we don't talk about, or one of the things that we don't talk about that's really needed to enable this whole AI, Gen AI, and autonomy that we are talking about is data. So, like you mentioned, that you're using the data that you have in your network to train the model. So, there are gaps, and that's where we have to start now focusing on the next level and see how we can address that issue.
One thing I see is that, when with Gen AI, the challenges, just to add on what you said, it's a tool, that technology that helps to create a lot of content. So if you create a lot of content, and next generation, or maybe 2-3 years down the lane, the large language models use this data to actually come up with insight. So that's a key challenge, keeping the data integrity in place, because it will determine later generations large language models, the outputs, the biases, everything is included, because what we generate today. So it's like if there is a corrupt data, or behaviors, or large data sets that are created in a specific way, so it becomes difficult for future generation models to actually make sure that these models are working as they are supposed to. Yeah.
Andrew, with Oracle, certainly they talked about some of the talking points around the challenges of this coalescence, if you will, between AI, Gen AI, and OpenRAN. From Oracle's point of view, what are those sort of top-line challenges that we should be looking for?
Yeah, I think if I look at the challenges of how to take advantage of this, the first one I would say is there's a cultural and an organizational aspect to this. Even the adoption of cloud native technology itself has been, a significant challenge for the industry in rethinking the way you run your business and the way that you run your operational processes, and handing over the keys of a lot of the things that have, for decades been done in a very manual way to large language models. I think is a big step for the industry. So that's almost, sort of challenge number one. The second one I'd pick up on your point, which is around data, because one of the other challenges that we have right now is around the fact that the data is still very siloed across the network. And when we look at the sort of goals of full closed loop automation, or even applying use cases like network optimization or traffic modeling, you need to get the data sets from the radio network, from the core network, from the transmission network, and we really have to overcome how to consolidate all of that so that the models get access to the data that they need, because the models are only as good as the data you feed them, and the ability to train. So,
Anshul, challenges there?
Yeah, I think in terms of challenges, we pretty much covered most of the ground in terms of technology, data, platform, or like a data strategy, as well as the cultural aspect. I couldn't agree more with Andrew in that sense that, I'll just give you an example of Rakuten Mobile as a case study, right, if I can. So when we started this journey, we thought technology is going to be our biggest challenge, but it turns out that technology is there. It is evolving. I think now, every month we are getting some new version of an LLM. But I think the culture and the people aspect. So we take this approach of people, processes, and tools. So how can we have a process whereby any repetitive incident or any repetitive change in the network flows through the automation backlog? So I think the first order of business is to create a process to have this backlog of automations. Of course, there are some standard RAPs around traffic steering, energy management, and that is happening. But a lot of low-hanging value is in automating a lot of operational aspects, a lot of planning, provisioning related tasks. So how to create an automation backlog via a process where everyone in the organization is aligned towards this next journey of automation. How can we equip everyone with the right knowledge around AI? So I think the process and people aspects are a bigger challenge in our experience than technology itself, which of course is getting better. So that would be my comment mainly around people, processes, and tools. All three have to be looked at in order to overcome some of these challenges.
Yeah. Bharadwaj, I want to talk to you about monetizing Gen AI. Is it too early of a conversation to have about telcos and also enterprise companies, their customers, monetizing Gen AI solutions? Is it too early?
Like I said, Gen AI, this AI technology, even though it's still evolving, it touched the end user. So you see that it's the content creation. So if you see for me, monetization happens where there's a value creation. So the value creation starts from the employee. If you look at all the digital customer touch points in an enterprise, in a telco. So if you're a sales person, so you can create the dynamic offers. You don't need to remember all sorts of plans, and then you can create customized offers on the go based on the customer behavior, their requirements. And the agents, I think you mentioned about agents. So customers the customer experience will drastically change, that they feel that they are able to talk to a real person and solve their problem. So every such use case which creates value for both internally for telcos and their subcontractors, their vendors, and the customers, I think these are all various revenue opportunities. So I think, and especially with the open gateway and telecom as a service kind of vision, I think there's more. I think this whole telecom industry is going to see a new wave.
Andy?
Yeah, I'd like to build on that. Again, from a neutral host or system integration perspective, yes, it is all about ultimately monetization and value creation. So, we're not an MNO, but we are becoming a CSP by virtue of the 100 plus 5G private networks that we now run, mainly in Europe. But if you look at MNOs and CSPs, the crunch point, what's the big business problem they face? It's kind of like CapEx and OpEx crunch. So how we can use the OpenRAN and AI systems to kind of mitigate that. And I'm a firm believer, I think, in the OpenRAN stack for providing coverage to the long tail of buildings, in building systems. So I think that's a really interesting approach. And then just helping the CSPs to manage their networks in a more efficient way. If you've ever managed a network, it's one of the world's most complicated tasks with all of the manuals and processes and flowcharts. Speaking at Congress, there are models now that ingest the 3GPP call flow diagrams and then sort of come up with solutions. So they're kind of like automatically diagnosing network issues, based on standards and specs. So I think this is really going to turn the corner in terms of cost.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a bit of a futurist question. I'll start with Rakuten Symphony on the end and kind of go down. We're here this time next year talking about GenAI and its influence on telcos and their customers in the enterprise space. What do you think we should be talking about?
Yeah, I think a lot of focus on from the enterprise perspective. We are hearing about a lot of focus and efforts being done on sustainability. So OpenRAN combined with AI, I think what we are offering since this MWC is something around network slicing, which is essentially an energy efficient or a green slice. So AI is helping us to analyze the slice behavior, the enterprise consumption patterns better, and for us to configure the slices in a better way instead of just having a static slice. So I think we are going to see a lot of traction in terms of use cases, especially around sustainability and green slicing, which is energy efficient slice. And I think sitting here next year, as I keep telling you, Abe, I am expecting at least one of the panelists would be an AI. I guess we will be able to take things up to the next level, but that's the future. Let's see how it goes next year.
Absolutely. Andrew?
Yeah, I'd rather lay claim as Oracle that we're already in AI, but okay. I think I would answer the question actually linked into the previous question, which was around that whole challenge to monetization, because although we're here as a panel with a little bit of an angle, specifically to ORAN and the application, I would join the dots to the fact that when you look at the adoption of GenAI and other forms of AI and machine learning type technologies, they're most impactful from a monetization perspective at the CX layer, right? When you're trying to use those things to manipulate your customer experience and your customer engagement. And I think if we join the dots a little bit, what we can really understand is that one of the key things that you can achieve at the radio layer is you can firstly use these technologies to make sure that your network is ultra reliable and ultra high quality, and that has intrinsic value to the customers. So there's a path to monetization there already that I think we will see being more clear 12 months from now. But the second thing is that a really key thing to understanding your customer experience is their network experience. So once again, digging into the network, having the ability to use these models to give you informed insights into what is happening at a subscriber level, that can easily propagate up to the CX layer and be a very valuable thing to interact with your customers. And that's gonna reduce churn. It's gonna keep loyalty. It's gonna even perhaps drive upsell. So I think we'll see a lot more of all of these things coming together 12 months from now, and the dollars will be much more obvious.
Kaitki, any?
So I think I would try to connect all the monetization and the challenges we were talking about earlier with data. Like Anshul mentioned that the data is in silos between radio network, core network, OSS, BSS, and everything. What I'm pointing out is that data is siloed in those areas, but more than that, data is siloed among operators. Like one operator has its own data set. Now, as a vendor, do I train my models for my product based on that data coming from one operator network, and then it belongs to that operator, and then I retrain my model with another operator network's data and give it to them, and then keep it in silos that way? Or there will be openness in operators' mind to have a vendor's model get trained by multiple operators, like the OpenAI model, ChatGPT model, we train with the vast amount of network data that's all available on the internet, and it's available open source. Are we going to adopt some model like that in telco, or it's going to continue to be in silos, like operator by operator? And there is a potential to monetize if you want to monetize it that way, because data is oil and you want to monetize data, and so that could be one possibility. Then operators are monetizing using their data and adding the differentiation for their network. But that's a big topic for discussion, in my opinion.
Sure. Bharadwaj, this time next year?
I want to have a lot of things, 1 year. So I'm very ambitious. But because this is an ecosystem play with the OpenRAN, so you need either a VC support, like pumping a lot of money to give that push, or a regulatory push. So you need that kind of a support to actually make it widely adopted. For telcos, I feel they should have a living lab. Everybody should have a living lab because you're dealing with various technologies, a multitude of apps, third-party vendors. You need an interoperability testing, security, because if you want to build an ecosystem of diverse technologies and vendors, you need to build that trust. So the trust layer, and then also you see the evolution of AI models every other week. Like you said, you need to really test those models, imbibe into your organization, train your people. So you need to create the center of excellences, or the living lab, I would call. At least some of these startups, the innovations, they can be driven through that, and that way they can actually, because you can't just let in any new solution into the organization. So you need to have a proper vetted through process. So that's what I expect next year.
Andy, from Boldyn Network's perspective, this time next year, GenAI for telcos and also for their customers.
Yeah, so if I fast forward a year and I'm sat on this stool with slightly more grey hair and perhaps a bit more weight, what would I be saying? I think, but building on the previous speakers, really, it's such a fast-paced sort of ecosystem that we're experiencing at the moment. I'd love to be able to come back in a year's time and talk about how these AI agents are starting to kind of optimize service on a wind farm, or on one of our metro transit projects where it's very difficult to get coverage today. So how you sort of like layer in that, and I really would like to see sort of like the recognition of stacks, like Rakuten, and the capability that we have starts to really go towards mass adoption and sort of like brought into standardization. You know, it's all about virtualization of ORAN, cloudification, all of those key components that have been proven to work. So I think it'd be great to talk about that next year, but probably not talk about 6G yet.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's interesting you said that. Maybe a topic for our next session, actually. Great to have all of you on this. Certainly GenAI is not a topic that's going anywhere anytime soon. Certainly a turning point for industry and for the public sector as well, even maybe. Maybe that's something we'll talk about next time when we get back here this time next year. And Anshul, as always, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Abe.
Andrew de la Torre, or as they call him, ADT internally.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for your time as well.
Great to be here, thanks.
Kaitki, thanks so much, and nice meeting you, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
And Bharadwaj, you had a day trip, and you're heading back to Amsterdam.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Andy. As always, Boldyn Networks. Always good to have you guys on the sessions.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.